Hi, I'm Tyesha Friday, and you're watching If Ever You're Listening.
There's a lot of discussion around the utility and merit of streaming services these days, from users of the platform and artists alike. But what about the opinion of someone on the inside? Someone who, with authority, could speak on the true value of streaming services and the resources they are providing indie artists every day. Today, we're going to speak to one of those people, the one and only Tyesha Friday. UK born, in New York City based, the communication specialist has had an inspiring journey working on everything from product to overseeing corporate external communications and currently product communications. She's worked at Square, Block, and now Tidal, continuing to improve her ability to tell the story of Tidal's impact through their social media channels. There are plenty of lessons from Taisha's life that inform her work today, from her passion for poetry to her history as a fellow podcaster, and so much more. Whether you're an entrepreneur in the textured hair business or an independent artist grinding to break through, Taisha has put in the blood, sweat, and tears to understand your journey and figure out ways to share with people that need to hear it the most. With people like Taisha working at Tidal, I'm more optimistic than ever about the direction of streaming services these days. In our conversation today, we talked through a plethora of topics from Taisha's work journey, what drives her, some novel products and initiatives at Tidal, which are really cool, misconceptions of streaming services in general, podcasting, the power of community, and what that means for artists, and some of my favorite topics, which is the songs currently on her playlist. Enjoy the conversation. We talk about even more than what I just described. Taisha's a delight to talk to and a really, really enlightening and informed and really powerful and profound communicator. So I think you're going to learn a lot from this, especially if you use streaming services or you're an indie artist. So listen closely, enjoy, and have a good rest of your day. Take care, guys. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the If Ever You're Listening podcast. I'm your host, Stanley C. And today we have a very special guest, the one, the only Tyesha Friday from, you guessed it, Tidal. Thank you so much, Tyesha. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
I want to go into a lot with you from the artistic side to the business side in the music industry. You wear a lot of hats, but I want to start with your relationship with music. So talk to me about what was your relationship with music like growing up, and how did you find yourself kind of like relating to artists and songs?
Yeah, I think music for me growing up was a way to escape and imagine. I was always a creative child, and so being exposed to different music and different cultures through my parents and grandparents meant I was listening to reggae, I was listening to hip hop and rap, I was listening to a lot of British pop through going to school in the UK. But it allowed me to just imagine and like get into the creative space of my mind. And then that kind of inspired me to write poems for myself. But that was my relationship with music. And then when I ended up going to university, I had a music blog. So when I should have been in lectures, I was actually writing a blog every week talking about the latest music coming out. It's no longer a thing. But again, I was always excited about what was coming next.
Mm, fantastic. And so you mentioned a little bit about poetry, poems. Um, Fast forward a little bit, you make music that has a poetic style to it. It's almost like spoken word, but we could kind of dive into that. But talk to me about what were you getting out of the poems when you were writing them, and then what are they about?
Yeah, I started writing poetry more as a form of expression. I think it was, if I look at now, I think it's almost therapy. I think it allowed me to take what I was observing, what I was experiencing, what I was hearing from people around me, and communicating the emotions or experiences coming out of that. So it just allowed me to express myself in a space that like there would be no judgment, right? Because there's no right or wrong to poetry. It's just what you write. And then more recently, I work at Tidal. The team gave us last year a small amount of money as part of a music makers program to get everyone immersed in the experience of an artist. And so I have always wanted to record my poetry, but I never took action. And so I used that company benefit to purchase a mic, some software, and I started playing around with instruments, some samples to record. And honestly, ever since I've started doing that, I've fallen more in love with it. And that was when I first started to share my poetry. And as you pointed out, maybe it's spoken word, but I release EPs with short summaries of poems that I write and produce. Yeah.
If you do not have a Tidal subscription, I definitely recommend getting one so you can listen to this music. And I just love the themes. It's both introspective, but I see you also kind of talking about culture and like more big picture stuff. So it has this really cool dichotomy. Um, going, you talked a little bit about you're at Tidal. You're literally at Tidal. We have the fantastic logo behind you. But before that, talk to me about your career. How did you find a door into the music industry, from both like the communication side, social media, and what was that journey like for you in those early days?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm currently running communications at Tidal, which is part of Block. For anyone that doesn't know, Block is also home to Cash App and Square. And so we're a technology company at large. And so I actually joined Tidal from Square. So I was originally part of the Square team in the UK doing product communications and customer communications to help build and spread word of mouth about Square to small business owners there. And then prior to that, I'd held several roles in healthcare and pharmaceuticals and communications. I think the underlying thread through my career journey today has been communications as an area of focus for me. But I think most importantly is every single team and every single industry I've touched has required problem solving. Each industry kind of quite heavily regulated up until this point. And so in I think I kind of started to build skills that were transferable. So learning fast, dissecting very complicated information and communicating that in the simplest way to everyday people. And in general, I think I'm just a very curious person. And so when Tidal was acquired by Block a few years ago, I saw the opportunity to finally combine my personal passion for music with my professional craft. And I was fortunate enough to be able to be given the opportunity to step in to help build product communications at Tidal here. So that's the journey from healthcare to music.
That's great. And talk to me about what are some of the things you love about working at Tidal? Maybe what are some things that people may not understand or know that you
Yeah.
do at Tidal?
Yeah, I would start what I love about working at Tidal. It doesn't feel like work. I think when you work in music, and I don't know many people that don't like music, right? Is you're talking about something every day that just feels good to talk about. And I think we are at Tidal really focused on supporting independent artists and helping them grow their careers. And so it just feels like something you want to talk about in your spare time, but you just actually have a job that you get to do it in your day-to-day role. I love the variety of people I've been able to work with. I would say joining Tidal led me to be in a team that I think is probably has the most diverse perspectives I've ever seen in a team in my time here. I think secondly, or I say thirdly now, the opportunity to learn. Tidal's gone through a lot of change as a business. If you ever experience working through an acquisition, bringing different company cultures together and trying to build something new, that requires being able to adapt and like really pivot and move fast and kind of roll with the punches. And so I'm an avid learner. I think if you're not learning, you're probably not growing. And so I love the fact that I think at Tidal, every year I've been here, I've been stretched in some way professionally to get stronger at what I do.
Fantastic. And one of the things we connected on early on, and one of the things I love that you're passionate about, and I'm passionate about this as well, is helping independent artists get attention, raising their visibility, doing any type of support for their careers. And two initiatives that I really am interested to talk to you about today is the Tidal upload feature and the weekly spotlight program. Talk to me about what are those things, why are they important, and how does independent artists benefit from them?
Yeah, so I think to give anyone context, if you're ever listening to this, to give anyone context, Tidal has always been a streaming service. We've always had hundreds of millions of songs on our platform. And around 4 years ago, when we were acquired by Block, the vision was to really kind of like dig deeper on the product side to making Tidal's artist first mission like a reality in the product itself. And so if you take the context of Block, where we've been helping small businesses at Square and consumers with Cash App have more accessible tools to be able to like manage their money or build their company. If you think about the average typical independent artist, they they need those tools too. They're essentially running their own business. They're just making art, right? And so with Tidal, that's really the vision: is how do we put tools into their hands that can help them grow. Very transparently, it's been a journey. I think we've been part of Block for 4 years now, and so as part of that, we've been experimenting and we tried some things. Some things worked, some things we learned from, and some things we realized maybe weren't the right path to go. And so last year, we made a decision to really focus on one thing for independent artists, and double down on it. And that was helping artists share their work in the streaming app. Yes, there's a few places that you can share music, but Tidal is the only place right now that has 180 million DSP catalog songs. And then you can also upload directly in the app in seconds. And so what that means is with Tidal Upload, you can go into the mobile app or you can go online and you can literally just pick a track and upload it. And if you set it to public, it's then available for every Tidal listener to be able to listen to. I think the great thing, and this is how I've also been using it, is you don't have to publish the track. So independent artists can upload demos or works in progress and share those links privately with friends, families, or teams to listen to. So they can also store like music if they need to there. The big question, which I know you're quite keen to kind of dig into, is kind of how does this music get seen, right? We know there's, I mean, hundreds of thousands, millions of songs every year, right, getting put out. What we've decided to do is to make sure we make these tracks visible. So if you upload a track, our editorial team listens to lots of music, thousands of songs, all the time. And they will select artists that they think are making exceptional music based on a few things. And they will sit in our spotlight program. So what this means is for around 2 weeks, those artists will live directly in the app. So anyone who goes in will see that. We're one of the first things they see. So they go straight to the front of being able to be seen by new listeners. They'll be on our homepage, and we also compensate them. So it's currently available, the Spotlight program, only in the US right now. But artists get paid directly for that placement into their Cash App account, which again, we're able to do as part of Block, because we want them to get paid fast, right? And that's probably faster than they would receive any other form of compensation for plays. We know there's still work to do, but I think this is like the early stages of giving artists an upload ability within the Tidal streaming app.
I love everything about that, Tyesha. And just from my experiences with artists, the things that I always hear is there's so many places to put my music, but I don't know how to increase views per platform and per space. So having this leg up, this kind of staircase, for visibility is, I think, super profound and super important. And I hope more independent artists find themselves coming to Tidal and seeing that. I'm going to go on a slight detour for this question. I was doing some research into your background and I found this really cool podcast that you were part of called Coils, Cash, and Culture, specifically about the entrepreneurs in textured hair. But I wanted to ask this question in relation to your work actually with Tidal. So, what was your experience like with that podcast and how does it relate to your work now when it comes to culture in the music industry?
Yeah, the podcast was an opportunity for me to interview entrepreneurs and creators in the textured hair space. And I think I just learned a lot about the nature of their dynamic in their day to day as creatives. And so, from outreach to scheduling to speaking to them directly, just understanding all of the things they have to manage as someone in that space and the culture of being in a creative industry. And so when I think about my role at Tidal and I think about what we're trying to do at Tidal, which is help independent artists, is I think it helped give me some insight and have some compassion for the independent artists and what they're having to juggle because they're not just making music and having to be in that energy, right? They're having to think about their marketing, their promotion plan, funding. They're having to think about where they get support and understanding of the industry and how to navigate it. But they're also having to do that whilst continuing to maintain a level of creative energy to create this amazing music that we all want to hear. And so I think the connection between those two, and also my time at Square was essentially they're creatives, and the culture of anyone who's creative is they've taken the courage to put something out into the world that no one necessarily asks for, and there should be a lot of compassion for being able to do that on top of your everyday life. Yeah, there's a bit of hustle in it, and I think the biggest takeaway, and I think this applies to what we're trying to do at Tidal, is speed. At the end of the day, music moves so fast. Nothing moves faster, I don't know, than music, maybe fashion. But every day, especially with so many platforms to find new music, there's a new song, there's a new artist. And so that's what independent artists are up against in a crowded space. And so again, when we think about at Tidal what we're working on, it's this is why it's so important that it has to be as fast as possible to upload. And so that's why I even test the product regularly myself when I upload to make sure that we're talking about 60 seconds to upload.
Mm.
And then that's why it's important that these uploaded artists are visible and it's very easy to find them in the Tidal app because, again, you're dealing with a fan base and you're dealing with a listener base that in seconds is picking a song. And so I think the main thing about music right now, which is driving the pace at which we need to move as a team if we're going to really have an impact on artists is speed, the speed of culture.
Amen. Amen. The speed of I feel even in my space, like if content is unrelenting, it's relentless, it's constantly asking for more, and you don't feel like you're doing enough until you're giving it more and at a faster rate. So that's 100% it connects to me. I want to hear a little bit about kind of making it even more specific or relatable. Do you have maybe one or two unsung heroes or stories of independent artists who have used the Tidal Upload or Spotlight program, maybe without naming names, but
Yeah.
that have
Yeah.
worked?
You know what's so interesting is when we put this out, we had no idea like what it's gonna do. We know it's gonna help people upload music, but the true utility comes from understanding like what's the response. And so I mean, there's quite a few like great stories, I guess, or like positive signals of how it's helping artists. We've had artists let us know they're getting A&R attention from labels, so people are discovering their music and saying, "Hey, can we talk?" Within Block itself, we've been able to give some artists music sync opportunities for cash app placements with their advertising. And again, I'm not sure necessarily the path would have been as fast if we didn't have the connectivity as part of Block. I think in real life collaborations, something we've started to do is for the spotlighted artists who are compensated and put on this playlist program for visibility. We've started to host supper clubs to bring in different geos these artists together. And so just seeing these artists come together and then going to events and seeing them start to find opportunities to collaborate and support each other, which is something we know is really important to independent artists, has been a positive signal. We also had an artist recently reach out to say they got their music used in an NFL placement. And so essentially right now it's just exciting to see how much just sharing their work in the app as a starting point is helping them get discovered and get different economic opportunities because it's one thing to have a listen, that's great, but what we really want to solve for and build for is opportunities that turn into economic return or recognition that can lead to opening those doors. I guess one artist, I don't think they will mind if I share this. At the Supper Club, we had one artist called FKG Tan. And they actually took it upon themselves to just share after the Supper Club how this program has helped them. And so like I know we're on a time stamp, but I think the only way to give color to this is to read what they posted on Instagram, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Cool. And I'll make sure I send this to him too.
Yeah.
So here it goes. I'm grateful to NYC and Tidal for reinvigorating a 26-year journey from recording straight to cassette on a stereo using instrumentals from $2 for $5 beat tapes bought at Bronx barbershops to throwing release parties in high school overlooking the Hudson in Soho to arriving at a moment where more of my purpose is finally revealing itself. I never depended on an image to hold me together. It's always been in my pen and I and the people who refuse to see me only at the surface. Still building in silence with support, without support, marginalized in the cracks. The irony is, English was my second language. Spanish came first. Music became my teacher. I learned my craft from my English teacher, Mr. S., who taught me the power of understanding the mechanics behind literary elements. I wanted to let this moment settle because for the first time, I didn't feel like me reaching upward. It felt like a company meeting artists eye to eye, not above, not below, seen. Tidal doesn't just talk about support, they invest in artists directly. Because of them, I was able to upgrade my laptop to continue building and see my family in the DR for the first time. If I ever felt slighted by the city, this experience humbled me and gave me back dignity by seeing me beyond what I'm able to show in a single moment. I don't speak highly of companies often, if ever, but Tidal has been my number one streaming platform for years, and I'm an audiophile. Quality matters. They made me feel like more of a listener than a statistic, but a contributor to the floor other artists stand on. The first platform in my entire journey to open a real door and encourage me to keep pushing, forever grateful. And I had to read that in full because I know we live in a world where we do sound bites, but like I think that needs in full. And so I guess FKG Town was on the spotlight program, and I think that even that sum of money, right? And people can say like how much is enough money. I think also recognizing that there's just day-to-day living support that independent artists need to fund. And so I think that was like that definitely moved me when I saw that, and I definitely moved the team. And I think again, it's there's so many people that make music. There's so many independent artists out there. And I think the first step is given the opportunity to get heard and then go from there. And so that's what we're starting to see. And I guess in general, we're seeing artists let us know that they're purchasing music equipment, studio time to really start to double down on what they need for their career. But yeah, I think the long-term goal is that we have more and more independent artists being able to like speak to how this is turning into a economic opportunity for them, because that's where the real impact is made.
That was so I almost got emotional listening to that story. I'll tell you that was beautiful, and I think it really reaffirmed the point you're making about how Tidal views the artists that they work with and they collaborate with. It's not like my favorite phrase is like I'm not just a statistic. Like you see me as like a full person, and that's so I think underappreciated across the board with a lot of platforms when it comes to creatives and how they're on the platform.
Yeah.
Um, to that question, you work at a streaming service, and streaming services are a very popular topic these days. So, from as to the degree to which you can answer this question, what is perhaps one misconception of streaming services when it comes to artists that you would like to debunk that you may have heard?
Um, Misconceptions. I think the one misconception is that is it good? I think this is a good misconception. I think it's a consistent one. Often I hear this from friends too. I think people recognizing where music comes from. I think streaming companies don't just as a standalone organization go out and pick music. Well, obviously there's hundreds of thousands of tracks coming in to every single platform, and that does come through a series of distributors who do checks and stuff. And so, yes, there's terms in place and everything like that, but just I think it'd be good for people to recognize that like we have to give access for people to put stuff on the platform, and then it comes down to individual platforms maybe to decide what type of content they ultimately want to keep. But in general, the influx of all content is pretty consistent across the industry, and that ultimately is to make sure that people, whatever type of music they're making, whatever kind of genre, has like a fair opportunity and channel to put their music on a platform. So that's probably often something I have to explain to friends, is that like we receive the music.
No, I think that's a really important one. And yeah, a lot of people don't know where music comes from, where I should say it starts, and
Mm-hmm.
where streaming services serve in that process. So, okay. And then before we get into the if ever listening questions, which are like questions I ask all the guests, my final specific Tyesha specific question is, what is something you're looking forward to this year at Tidal? What is something maybe down the pipe that is allowed to be public, on a
Yeah.
personal level, or even maybe Tidal specific?
I mean, I've got a few things I'm excited about, which is a good sign, right?
That's
Um,
very good.
First thing I'm excited about, we started a online contest late last year for independent artists, and so soon we will be announcing the full list of winners of this contest. So there will be 10 independent artists who will be announced as Tidal headliners. They've uploaded exceptional music. Our editorial team has listened to thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of tracks to get this short list, and they will all receive $100,000 directly into their Cash App account, no strings attached. And our goal with that is to really give a sufficient amount of money that they can really make a shift and an impact in pushing their career forward in music. And we're able to drop it into their Cash App accounts because we're Tidal and we're part of Block. So that's kind of cool. So I'm excited to see their responses and like see how what the impact that has on their career this year. Secondly, I'm excited that we're going to add more features. We know at the moment it's tracks that you can upload, but I'm excited to see us add a lot more features to enable artists to be able to do full releases of music, which will be pretty dope. And then this is more of a experiment. Let's see what happens. But I'm excited to see what we bring to the product for artists in connection with Square and Cash App and Bitcoin. So I think the first part is Square, millions of venues, millions of locations, millions of sellers in the community. So I'm really excited to see what we can do more at a grassroots levels to support artists. Cash App, super cool brand, but also just a really cool product in terms of like the financial tools and like how it's becoming a banking tool. So I think that will be interesting to explore if there's anything there for artists. And then nothing specific on I guess, the product roadmap, but I think like Bitcoin is a really interesting, I guess, currency at this point. I think it serves as an alternative option to fiat. And so looking at like what could that look like for independent artists potentially using Tidal. But again, those are just my as someone who's been at Block for 7 years, I think those are some of the exciting pockets that could be interesting for Tidal's future.
Those are really, really fun and inspiring things to look forward to in 2026. If you are an artist, an independent artist, and you've heard that, I hope it energizes you, if you're not already on Tidal, to work with Tidal, because I'll keep a close eye on the winners, and I'm curious. I want to hear their music and how everything is going with them. But if you're an artist, I feel like now is a great time to be a part of Tidal, and so much is going on. So thank you again, Tyesha, for those Tyesha specific questions. Now we are entering the if ever you're listening question. So this is the if ever you're listening podcast. So we always ask these four questions. I have a few that I take in and out depending on the person I'm talking to. But the first question is 9 times out of 10 the same, which is Taisha, what are you listening to these days?
Ooh. So I do a monthly playlist. So I know these are maybe quick fire. So let me get my um monthly playlist out. Are you ready for this? So
I'm ready.
I started doing these when I moved to New York around 3.5 years ago. So let me get this month's playlist up. So a few songs. I'm on a uploaded song on Tidal called Promise. Super gentle, nice R&B, great for like morning vibes, Sunday morning vibes. Alex Bone, So Good. That's the track name. My friend who isn't an upload artist, but they put out a project and a song they have called Body, with rapper Ruben Vincent on it is pretty cool. And then I'm a bit old school. So I'm I'm a bit old school. So something that's also on repeat is Set Adrift on Memory Bliss, PM Dawn.
PM Dawn, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So as you can see, new music and then some classics.
That's one of my favorite 90s R&B tracks. That beautiful songs, great selection. Folks, please listen to those artists. A lot of those were independent artists, I noticed. So,
Yeah.
great spotlight for them. My next question is about community. We didn't talk, I think, enough about it, but it is super important for independent artists to build community, and that's kind of how you build your fan base. But I'm asking this about you. How has community and maybe networking worked for you in your career? How has it been a source of support and help?
Yeah. I think it's been like fundamental to just like one my own experiences of like professionally and personally. I think it's just like having people to bounce ideas off. I think having people to just enjoy life with. I think the world is weird. And I think sometimes we forget that we're all just a bit human and probably facing similar concerns and challenges and worries and joys. And so I would say even in the last couple of years since moving to New York, and kind of starting afresh in a way and having to make friends, my local community, which has just like grown so much where I live, has been like is fundamental to my day to day. And it's funny because but it's run by two of my friends, and they've done a great job of really building community among like I'd say young professionals who have moved to Brooklyn to New York, and brought us together. So yeah, I think community is everything.
Amen. Amen to that. So my third question is about advice and how has advice sometimes people like literally give you advice or sometimes it's advice through action and like example. So for you, what has been very pertinent and actually substantial advice either you've been given or that you've seen that you've incorporated into your life throughout your career?
Ooh, advice. I've had so much advice. Um, I think, ooh, so much advice. I think the I think the I'll go with two if that's okay. The first one is seek to understand. Early on in my career, where like I think most people can resonate with like being so hungry, and I was quite headstrong and I kind of probably thought I knew it all, and I definitely don't. Is just come from a position of seeking to understand. I learned that through various roles, particularly taking a moment in sales is like really get to the bottom of like whether it's a team member, whether it's a customer, whether it's a partner, whether it's a vendor, like the why behind the why behind the why behind the why, or what is it that they may be facing or experiencing that's shaping how they're showing up and the decision they need to make. So yeah, just being curious and seeking to understand. And on a personal level, something that just I will always stand by is protect your mind. Um, that's something that my dad always used to say, and I think yeah, I think we all have the ability to ask questions and to be curious, and I think that gets harder once you let any organization or person or system infiltrate that. So I think it's just like a reminder to me to like always take care of your health, and that starts with your mind. So yeah, seek to understand and protect your mind.
I love that. For we're at the beginning of 2026. This for like the timestamp this. This is January 2026. So for this year, Tyesha, maybe what is like one like a phrase or a word or a motto that you're thinking about for this year that you're using kind of to go into this year, either for like intentions or to kind of set a good mood for the year.
Yeah, this one's easy. I wrote a poem about this. To be chalant. I like we have gone through a very strange few years, and almost I look around and I think a lot this might resonate with a lot of people of like it kind of became cool to like not care and be mysterious and like be nonchalant about everything, right? And I want to be chalant, man. Like I care, I'm passionate. I maybe overthink a little bit too much, but I think being chalant about what you do and showing that, I think, and putting that energy out into the world is like what I'm focused on, because I think what you put out is what you will receive.
You heard it here first, guys. Be chalant. Let that be your motto for 2026. I'm gonna definitely take that into my life, and I love everything about that. Tyesha, thank you so much for being on the If Ever You're Listening podcast. And where can folks find you? So where should people go to either kind of like check out Tidal, check out your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear from anyone who's using Tidal, whether they're a listener or an artist. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Probably just type Tyesha Friday into Google. You'll find me on LinkedIn, X, or Instagram. And I know you asked where they can find maybe me and my poetry, but like I really encourage people to go on Tidal and listen to just honestly the incredible music that um, artists are putting out. And if you happen to want to look at a poem, then yes, maybe you'll find me on there too. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been fun.